VOD watchers. Now, I will say this particular VOD, you may want to skip it. Well, not that you may want to skip it, but there is going to be an edited down version on the main PvP Steve channel, which I guess is just going to be all of the important bits sort of condensed down into the video. So that'll probably be live over there. Well, we're doing this on the 7th of March. To be honest, it'll probably be uploaded tomorrow. Like, I'll probably do this first thing in the morning. I'll edit together, put it up on the main channel, and she'll be good to go. So that'll be linked down in the. I'll put it in the pinned comment, I guess. I guess I'll put it in the pinned comment and presumably in the description as well. If like, this is really just here. I know that I've talked about it before. In VODs and such, but the main reason for the VOD channel to exist is really just to make sure that nothing gets lost. That there's some sort of record of all of the the streams go somewhere as opposed to just expiring after 2 weeks. So, like, I think I haven't necessarily come to a decision when it comes to, like, so say we get to stream the Brisbane Regional Championship, right? In my head, I probably don't upload that to the VOD channel, and I instead just upload that straight to the PvP Steve channel, because it's like all I do on the PvP Steve version of that is cut out all of the stream starting soon screens and stuff. So it's like, well, why would you sort of want to maximize the amount of people that are actually watching that sort of main shenanigan, right? So it feels like you should just direct people to that one as opposed to splitting it up. So I think, maybe, I don't know. I think this one I'll probably still upload to the VOD channel, because there is content that is sort of left on the cutting room floor, I suppose. But yeah, in general, I think that, like, event streams and stuff as well. So things like, I'm intending to do the Clash of the Casters again this year. That probably doesn't get uploaded to the VOD channel. I probably just put that straight on the main channel, and that's, end of the road. I suppose that's at least my thought process. I think it makes sense, to say the very least. I think it makes some sense, but anyway, today the game plan is to essentially do another edition of the sort of PvPoke deep dives, the matchup mastery series, and take a little bit of a look at Lapras, because it's a bit of a tricky one in the sense that there's a lot of different options flying around. Now, if you just look at PvPoke, it's going to spit at you that, this is the moveset to run, and you lock it in and you're happy days. And, like, if you go find the Shadow one, which is all the way down at number 26, it's like, oh, well, the regular one must just be better. And I feel like that's just not necessarily always the case. Essentially, we've got two different things that we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at regular Lapras versus Shadow Lapras, and we're also going to be looking at sort of Lapras's move pool, because there's some options, I guess. Quite a few options. Now, I don't get scared off, because we're not going to be doing a deep dive. Like, I'm not going to be doing a deep dive on Hydro Pump, right? And, like, there's some things like Surf. Sparkling Aria is literally a strict upgrade over Surf. It's the same amount of energy for more damage. So, like, there's literally no reason to run Surf. It's just worse. Actually, no, not literally only one reason. There is a reason. And the reason is you ran out of TMs. But, that's kind of the one and only reason that you would actually run it, to be completely honest with you. So I think what we're going to do, what I'll actually do is I'm going to grab an image of Lapras. So let's go Lapras Pokemon. I don't need to type in Pokemon. I could have just typed in Lapras. But let's download this picture. Save image. Lapras. And I will, for the stream intro, let us add image Lapras. Browse. Downloads Lapras. Okay. We can put this little guy here. Beauty, I think. I'll take chat off for the intro, I suppose. Okay, I'll make Lapras a little smaller so it fits a little neater. Oh, does that do? Should it go lower? Yeah, I mean, that probably does it. It's not that important if we're being real. I could upgrade. Maybe I should have. I won't do it now, but maybe I should have. Or in the future, I'll actually update my background image to be like a little bit relevant to the to the thing at hand. But look, let's do a YouTube intro, I suppose. I haven't planned out what that YouTube intro is going to be, but we will find out along the way as usual. And then I'll get rid of the Lapras picture and bring chat back in. That is my game plan. So. G'day battlers, and today we are diving back into the Matchup Mastery series to take a look at one of the brand new Pokemon that is taking the Might and Mastery season by storm, and that is Lapras. Lapras has been given sort of two buffs going into this particular season. It's been given Psywave and it's been given Sparkling Aria, which is a strict upgrade over Surf, so it is just a much better Pokemon with really good coverage into the main meta. And to tell you what I mean, look at the sort of PvPoke default. First of all, it's at rank 4 on PvPoke. That sort of tells you a lot, that it is actually going to be quite good. But if you look at the key wins here, it's got Drapion, Diggersby, Clodsire, Shadow for Alligator, Azumarill. These are key meta Pokemon that have been absolutely dominating, especially the Play Pokemon Championship Series meta for months. And so to sort of see a Pokemon that can sort of come in and really just beat core break that main key meta, it is going to be really big and really important. And you can see the key losses are Corviknight, Gastrodon, Jellicent, Primeape, and Superior, which aren't as relevant as this sort of first tier picks. But today we're going to answer a few different questions about Lapras. First of all, should you be running the regular Lapras or the Shadow Lapras? Because Shadow Lapras definitely has some advantages, and I've definitely heard a few people talking about it. So that's one consideration. Number two, what about the moves? Like, Lapras has one of the biggest move pools in the game, and, PvPoke will spit at you that you should be running Psywave, Sparkling Aria, Ice Beam, and let's be clear, I'm not going to be advocating for any move except Psywave. That one is just, locked in the bag. It's good against the current meta, and it is a really good fast move that really opens up Lapras' potential and gives it some extra move coverage that its charge attacks aren't able to do. So, I'm not even going to consider the other options here, because, you've got Ice Shard, Water Gun, Frost Breath. Ice Shard is fine, but Psywave is the GOAT. And then charge move wise, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different options here. Again, Sparkling Aria is a strict upgrade over Surf. Blizzard, actually, we'll look at the move sets in a second, but that's another question that we're going to answer. And question 3 is, we won't go into it too deeply in this video, but where are there going to be some attack breakpoints? Where might your Psywave do 2 damage instead of 1 or 3 damage instead of 2? What sort of IVs do you need on your Lapras to hit these special bulk points in these special matchups? All 3 questions we're going to answer in this video. So with that said, if this is content that you do appreciate and it's more content that you want to see in your YouTube feed, please do go ahead and subscribe down below. And of course, you can go back or watch some of the other episodes from this series as well, although admittedly, they won't be updated for the Might and Mastery season. But with that said, I think it's time to get into it. Okay, YouTube intro done. We can bring chat back. Yo, and my TMs. I know, it's a toughie. I don't think it took me too many. Wait, I did build one. It didn't take me too many. Okay, chat, Lapras, beauty. Okay. But yeah, it's, with all of the Claydol plus Lapras plus, is there anything else that's moveset questiony? Grumpig? How many moves does Grumpig have? Okay, Grumpig a little bit. It's got 4. Sableye's got a few. Yeah, I guess this is the sort of thing that happens when Niantic just keeps adding moves to Pokemon without any sense of what moves it already has. There is no reason for Lapras to have access to Surf when it has access to Sparkling Aria. There's just no point. I Elite TM'd my Shadow Lappy to add Ice Beam, you mean? Because I also, I gave an Elite TM to my Lapras that I built as well. I built a new one instead of using one of the Ice Beam Laprases I already had. And would you believe it? It's just because it had 1500 CP. PvPoke is back. Yo, baby puppy. Welcome back in. We're back 2 days later. As promised, we're back. And we're going to be doing a little bit of a Lapras deep dive. I believe it. It's got a bow tie. It looks cool. What do you want from me? Okay. Let's keep rolling with the punches, I suppose. So, yes, very on brand for you. Have you been playing all your sets? Not at all. I have not played one battle off stream, and so there'll be more Go streams coming up soon. And depending on how long this takes, how short this takes, I might even do some sets at the end of this sort of PvPoke deep dive. But we'll see about that, I suppose. But bro, yeah, Dapper Lappy, Dapperus. Dapperless? No, that's like less dapper. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, to give us a bit of a baseline about where Lapras stands in the Open Great League meta, we'll just do a simple Sparkling Aria, Ice Beam, default IVs, default moveset against the Open Great League meta, and we have 26 wins and 20 losses with 2 draws in the One Shield matchup. So what does Lapras actually do? So, we've got matchups like Drifbloom, which is, and I guess you've got Ice Beam, and you don't really care about their moves as much because you're quite bulky as Lapras. You beat Talonflame. You've got a Jumpluff win here because of Ice Beam, Alolan Sandslash, Shadow, Galarian Weezing, Ariados, Mandibuzz. I'm seeing a lot of Pokemon that Ice Beam, I think, is going to be important. So we'll get back to these when we look at the movesets. Shadow Drapion is a big win. Diggersby, Clodsire, Shadow Marowak. Nice to sort of push that out of the meta as well. Shadow Feraligatr, Dusclops, Clodsire, Dugong, Azu. Like, we're seeing a lot of sort of big picks here. Like there's Carbink, which is one of the Pokemon that is really being talked about as a possible core breaker this meta. We do get a One Shield win here, although it's getting close. And we've got really close wins against Shadow Quagsire, Claydol, and Galarian Corsola as well. We've got the ties against the 2 Laprases, and then who do we lose against? Who are we sort of worried about? And there's the close losses like Corviknight and Blastoise, which is kind of crazy when Blastoise is doing super effective rollout damage to us. It feels like that should be a little more solidly Blastoise. Same with like Guzzlord, which is resisting Psywave and resisting Sparkling Aria. It's just about landing that Ice Beam, I assume. But yeah, you've got rock damage like Credilli. You've got electric damage like Chargebug, Stunfisk, Thunderfang, Steelix, rock damage. I guess no rock damage coming from Shadow Sableye. This is running Foul Play, Dazzling Gleam, but it's in there as well. Grass damage from Cresselia, rock damage from Dunsparce, and then some fighting damage as well from Annihilate, Primeape, even from Grumpig with Dynamic Punch. And then it's just moves that are doing super effective damage to Lapras is kind of the only way to get through. But even then, some of these picks that it's beating can do super effective damage as well. Like Annihilate, admittedly, I wouldn't really want to be the Lapras when you're up against the Annihilate matchup, but in the One Shield matchup, it's actually pretty decent. It's the 2 Shield matchup where that one in particular gets a little bit more dicey for the Lapras. But, as you can see, we've got pretty decent sort of coverage across the board, and it does look pretty interesting. So let's take a look at the movesets though to sort of get us started, and these are all of the charge attacks that Lapras has access to, and you can just get to this on PvPoke by going to this little tab up here and going to moves. So I've sorted it by the amount of energy that each move costs here, so you can see Sparkling Aria and Surf both cost 45, and as I said, Sparkling Aria literally just does the more damage for the same energy. No reason not to run it. Ice Beam is the other sort of move of choice. It is the second cheapest charge attack that it can run, which still gets 90 damage, 55 energy. It's a pretty good move. So outside of that, you can run Dragon Pulse for a little bit more energy, the same amount of damage. You would only run this if Dragon coverage was going to be really important, if it really gave you something that Ice Beam didn't, and we will take a bit of a brief look at that one. Blizzard is a more efficient move than Ice Beam, so you get more damage per energy throwing Blizzard than you do Ice Beam. You get 140 damage for 75 energy, but then you're getting hampered by the fact that you need to get all the way up to that 75 energy move to actually be able to throw the Blizzard. Generally, especially in the current meta where things are so fast paced, I really think that pacing is one of the most important things in the current Great League meta. It's just not good enough, unfortunately. You just can't run a move that costs that much when all it does for you is a little bit more ice damage. You aren't getting that extra coverage. You don't need it. You can run Ice Beam for less energy. I mean, it takes an extra 20 energy, which I think Psywave is 4 energy per, so it's like another 5 turns. It's just too slow, unfortunately. But 75 energy isn't completely out of the question for a different move. I'm not talking about Hydro Pump because Hydro Pump is actually also less efficient than Sparkling Aria. We've got Skull Bash. Skull Bash is a sort of interesting coverage move for Lapras. It was sort of the old obvious move that you would run. It used to run Surf Skull Bash. That would I think it was its bread and butter as a moveset. It gives you good coverage into other Lapras because otherwise the water and ice damage is resisted, and it gives you really just good coverage across the board while also increasing your own defense by 1 stage every single time you use it. Granted, you're not going to use it that many times because, you know, it does cost 75 energy. And so the question sort of becomes, is there a reason to run Skull Bash over Ice Beam? And I think the answer could be yes. I don't know though. Coperaros? I mean, it's possible, to be honest with you. Yo, King GBO! What's up, Steve? Lapras is a beast. Yeah, it definitely sounds it, to be fair. I've definitely seen a little bit already, and it can certainly put some solid work in. I heard Lapras was good against the speedsters. Oh, wait, wrong game. True. It's really nice as a swap to draw Ape out and get 2 shields. That's probably a fair take, actually. I think the fact that you can burn those shields as a very bulky Pokemon can be pretty useful to you. Because, yeah, in the 1 shield, you actually win pretty handily. But, yeah, its pacing is just a little bit too annoying for Lapras, unfortunately, to go into the 2 shield Mano. So, let me move my screen around a little bit. There we go. Now I can actually see chat. I'll do this, actually. Okay, there we go. Perfect. Okay. So the first... Well, it's not the first thing we're doing. So let's take a look at how these movesets do compare. So we have the Lapras with the Sparkling Aria Ice Beam, we've got Sparkling Aria Skull Bash, and we have Sparkling Aria Dragon Pulse. We're not dropping Sparkling Aria because on its own, it does so much damage. Like, Sparkling Aria is Lapras's sort of best charge attack by far, and so Psywave Sparkling Aria, we're just going to use that as a starting point. And this is especially true in the Championship Series where your moveset is revealed. Technically in Go Battle League, you could, you know, find some success by running like Ice Beam, Skull Bash, and surprising your opponents, but generally you're going to be a little bit too slow, and so Sparkling Aria really does help you out. Notably, it is 12 turns for the first one, and then it's 11 turns, and so, you know, it's not as fast as some of the other picks running around, but it is still relatively speedy in the grand scheme of things. But anyway, let's take a look at what they can do. So if you've never seen this before, blue essentially means you win, purple means you lose, and we've got the 3 different Laprases here. Of course, we have a ton of numbers here that we could just comb through one by one, but instead, let's just scroll down a little bit and take a look at the differences table. So we have our sort of default Lapras with Ice Beam. How does it compare to the other ones? So if you run Skull Bash, you will pick up the Lapras mirror matches, which we expected, right? You know, you expect that if we're able to do neutral damage while the other Lapras's moves are resisted, we're going to be able to win that one out. But we lose the Jumpluff matchup, which makes sense because we're dropping Ice Beam, and we also lose Shadow Quagsire, which is a bit of an interesting one, and we'll take a look at that in a second. And actually, Dragon Pulse is the exact same. We pick up one of the Laprases, we actually don't pick up the Shadow Lapras, that's still a tie, and then we lose the Jumpluff and we lose the Shadow Quagsire. So first off, let's look at the Lapras here, because you can sort of see that, to be honest with you, it's not that insane of a win, sort of Lapras v Lapras. So let's just take a look at the Skull Bash Lapras versus the Ice Beam Lapras. So we have sort of Skull Bash on the left, and you can sort of see that it actually gets kind of close. Now, there are some PvPoke shenanigans here. You know, we're getting the bait with the first Sparkling Aria, and then we're throwing the Skull Bash second. Because, I mean, if you're a Skull Bash Lapras, and your opponent knows that you're a Skull Bash Lapras, and you throw the first move, chances are it's going to want to be the Skull Bash so they can get that defense buff early on in the game. And so PvPoke is sort of going like, okay, you go one step further, you bait first up, you get the Sparkling Aria with the shield, and then you land the Skull Bash second. And so you sort of end up with 29 HP, which isn't a lot. It is a win though. So, you know, it kind of gets a little bit devastating if that Skull Bash gets shielded, though. You can see that it's only 4 turns of difference before the other Lapras gets to a Sparkling Aria that does 36 damage. That would be enough to KO you. So, like, if we just sort of play around and let's say we shield this attack, but we don't shield the Sparkling Aria a little bit earlier. Say you go for the Gambit, but it fails. All of a sudden, this bottom Lapras is going to be able to get to the Sparkling Aria and will actually be able to get the win, and there's nothing you can do about it. So it's a bit of a risky strategy, and to be honest, doesn't necessarily get you the win. And you know, you could move the Skull Bash to a little bit earlier, and then it's actually going to go a little bit better for you if we put Skull Bash here, and then we, you know, throw a Sparkling Aria somewhere in here. All of a sudden, you do have that defense bonus throughout, so it can actually do a little bit better for you, although I realize I didn't apply a shield this time around. But, you know, it is still not like a dominating matchup by any means, and you are still going to have to work around their shields a little bit and hope that it all works out for you. But, you know, it's still a pretty decent position to be in. And here's the thing. there's something that Caleb Peng said a few days back, and that was, if you're a Mandibuzz in a Mandibuzz meta where everyone is running Mandibuzz, you want to be an Air/Mandibuzz. If no one else is running Mandibuzz, you want to be a Snarl Mandibuzz, because the whole point of Air Slash is that you have better coverage into that Mandibuzz while also doing its other jobs decently. You could look at Skull Bash and sort of say it's similar-ish in that if literally everyone is running Lapras, then maybe you consider running Skull Bash Lapras. But if they're not, then I kind of think that you probably just stick with Ice Beam because it just gives you... I mean, Jumpluff is a really big Pokemon in the play Pokemon meta. It's winning championship after championship after championship, and it just feels like having that matchup could be pretty key. But, you know, at the end of the day, there's a few other things here. Like the Shadow Quagsire, actually, we can look at as well. You can see that we have a really close matchup with a Sparkling Aria that we lose if we... with Ice Beam, that we lose if we run one of the other movesets. And I have a theory as to what we're going to see here. I think that if we sort of watch this Lapras take down this Quagsire, we have a Quagsire on 82 health. We are on 4 HP as we throw this Ice Beam that takes it down to 3, and 1 Psy Wave is all we need. If we run like, you know, a different move, like say we're running the Skull Bash instead, we are not getting to that second move. We are just going to get taken down. We're going to be forced to just throw a Sparkling Aria to do some damage. And unfortunately, we don't get it. It's like way too close. Because like Ice Beam and Sparkling Aria does 71 damage. Ice Beam does 79 damage. It's not doing that much more damage. But, you know, just because this particular matchup is so close, it makes the difference. So to be honest with you, I wouldn't really put this one in Ice Beam Lapras's favor. Like, I wouldn't look at this matchup and be like, oh yeah, you know, Ice Beam Lapras has got this in the bag. Like, it's on such a razor thin margin that I really don't think that one really gets, really does much for you. So at the end of the day, the only thing that's really happening is you're kind of losing Jumpluff and you're kind of winning Lapras. That feels to me like the main thing. And this is, here's the, I guess, next point, the next level up, is that this is looking at static matchups. In the real world, you're going to be playing a little bit over here, then the opponent's going to swap, you're going to swap. There's going to be energy and health in slightly different places, in which case, having that ability to sort of go for a bit of a cheaper charge attack, I think more often than not is going to be an important factor. And so I would sort of put my money onto Ice Beam being the main move to run, unless, you know, it really does become Lapras meta and Skull Bash becomes absolutely huge. And there's, you know, a ton of Pokemon that resist Sparkling Aria Ice Beam. If everyone is running Lapras and Feraligatr and, I mean, you still beat Feraligatr, even with Sparkling Aria Ice Beam. So to be honest with you, I think for the rest of the video, we are just going to be looking at Ice Beam because it does feel like that is the way to go. But you can, of course, do your own analysis on Skull Bash or Dragon Pulse or even Blizzard if you think that that is going to be the secret sauce. And I really look forward to seeing it happen as well. But I don't know. Do you agree with my take? Is it, like, do we agree? Or are we anti this? Welcome in, Active Jocks. I wonder what happens if you shield the Bash. Yeah, it gets a little dicey for old Lappy. Worth noting that Shadow Quagsire is getting the bait. That's true, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it's sort of all, in my mind, it all goes in the same bucket, in which, regardless of what moveset you're running, you aren't picking up some easy dub. It's not like, oh, well, the Ice Beam Lapras is, you know, it's not like having Grass Knot on Lapras in that just all of a sudden it hard wins, right? It's, even though the simulation is sort of showing it, like, what were the numbers again? 511, okay, it is relatively close numbers, but like this is the point. It is really close numbers. Just because one happens to sit just on the side of 500, I don't think means a lot, personally. We're going to see a Lapras and Morpeko meta. To be honest, you might be right. Like, it does feel like Morpeko is sort of primed and ready to be really good going into this particular meta, because Dark type is going to be good. Electric is going to be really good. And Morpeko was already good. Plus, you've got access to Psychic Fangs to sort of add that extra anti-fighter coverage as well. I mean, it's kind of going to be a little tough to not expect. I think we might finally see the point where Morpeko actually can perform well in a championship, because we haven't seen it yet, to be honest with you. It just has not happened. Okay, but next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at... What's this? Oh no, we've looked at that. Let's look at this. Yeah, I Googled the word shadow to remind me that we need to look at the shadow. Which brings Clodsire back, in my opinion. The problem is Clodsire is weak to all of those other new Pokemon that are coming in. Like, it's not going to love the Lapras matchup, which we'll see a little later, I guess. But, like, it's not loving Lapras. It's not loving, well, it depends how the meta ends up shaping out, I suppose. But, like, you know, it's even weak to Grumpig, right? Because the Psychic coverage is coming in. So it sort of feels like, I'm not so confident. It could leave ground types around. Lapras, Morpeko, I guess Pangoro stocks go up. 100% agree. I legitimately think that Pangoro is one of the biggest potential core breakers that is going to come out and rise in this particular season. I've been thinking about it from the start. It's legitimately could be good. What about the matchup against Wailmer? We can get to it in this video, surely. Surely. The rollout is scary, to say the least. But we can probably drop Skullbash at this point. I mean, yeah, let's just say we've locked in Ice Beam as our moveset of choice. Oh, actually, no, because, you know, maybe the Lapras does all of a sudden... Oops, wrong move. Lapras, Shadow, Sparkling Aria, Skullbash. Okay. Just to make sure, though, let's do a little bit of a comparison with the Shadow. So we've got 4 Lapras here. We've got Lapras, Shadow Lapras, or maybe I should do intro with the fact that we're going to be looking at Shadow Lapras. Probably should. All right. That was only one of the questions we had, though, about what moveset you should run. The second question was Lapras versus Shadow Lapras. And so let's take a little bit of a look here. I've brought back the Skullbash moveset here, just in case the Shadow Lapras shows how amazing it is. To be honest with you, I'm going to guess that Shadow Lapras with Skullbash is way worse because you're sort of just throwing away defense, which, you know, maybe you're building it back with a Skullbash bonus. I don't know. We'll take a look here. But we have 4 Lapras. We've got regular with Ice Beam, Shadow with Ice Beam, regular with Skullbash, Shadow with Skullbash against the Open Grey League meta in the One Shield matchup. And let's take a little bit of a look here. And we can see the differences. So if we compare Shadow Lapras to regular Lapras, we pick up Bombardier, Corviknight, Guzzlord, Dunsparce, and Stunfisk. So straight away, we're seeing a lot of difference actually happening here. And then we lose the matchups to Annihilate, Claydol, Galarian Corsola, Shadow Quagsire, and Toxapex. This is kind of interesting in that there is a lot going on here. I'm sort of curious what is actually occurring. Like, are we doing less Psywave damage? Are doing more damage with Ice Beams? Like, there's only this one matchup here. So let's take a look at the Lapras, the regular and the Shadow against Bombardier, just as a little bit of an example. So this is the regular Lapras. We get a Sparkling Aria, second Sparkling Aria, and, you know, we end up losing, and that's the end of the game. With this in the Shadow, for some reason we're throwing the Ice Beam. Okay, I actually have a feeling I know what's happening here. In this matchup, the Ice Beam is actually enough to KO. It's a 98 damage move, and there are 92 health left. If we look at the regular, and we get to this point, Ice Beam only... Oh, no, Ice Beam does 102. Wait, have I got it the wrong way around? How does this make sense? How does Ice Beam do more? 102... 123. Oh, wait, we've been debuffed. Oh, okay. I see. Interesting. Okay. So, and how do we explain this? Okay, we have to play with the sims a little bit. So going back to the... So the Shadow Lapras is able to get the Ice Beam that gets the KO, 98 damage against a 92 HP Pokemon, and this is after the sort of Rock Tomb nerf. If we go back to the other Lapras and we go Sandbox mode, let's throw an Ice... Oh, we'll wait. Well, I guess we'll throw Psywave, and then we'll throw the Ice Beam just at any random point. We're not doing perfect move timing. This Ice Beam only does 82 damage, and there are 90 HP, which means that, unfortunately for us, the Bombardier barely survives. So this is another matchup where, you know, the PvPoke default sims sort of say like, oh, you know, the Shadow is going to pick this one up because, you know, we're getting that tiny bit of extra Ice Beam damage. But I really don't think that you can sort of play this game assuming that it is going to play exactly like the default simulations, you know, in the One Shield scenario as well. It sort of feels like the health is too close. And, you know, if we have, so say we have a defense weighted, we should go to the Shadow. Say we have defense weighted Bombardier up against our Ice Beam that is doing a little bit more damage, and we sort of battle again. Okay, no, we actually do still win. The Ice Beam's doing 94 damage here. We take down the... Okay, it ends up working out in this case, but it feels a little dicey when just a few HP is what separates you from the big win to the big loss. So, that's the Bombardier matchup. Maybe one of the other ones was a little bit more telling, and we've got random pictures there. What about the matchup? Yeah. Is this just the one shield, or do you look at the 0s and 2s? We'll look at the 0s and 2s as well, but this is just to sort of get us started. Actually, I did mean to look at that for the movesets, but I forgot. But well. What was one of the other ones? The other ones that changed were... What's going to be important? Corviknight? Annihilate? Let's look at Corviknight. Okay, if we look at Corviknight, it looks like it's a very close loss, looking at the regular Lapras, and the Shadow one has a bit more of a confident win. So let's first look at the regular Lapras, Sparkling Aria. We get in the Ice Beam, and unfortunately, Corviknight survives on 3 HP. I think we all know where this is going. The Ice Beam on the Shadow Lapras over here is going to get the KO. Actually, we can just throw a straight Sparkling Aria. We don't even need the Ice Beam. And the Corviknight is not able to get to this Iron Head that would KO us, which is why the number is sort of so much bigger than 500. So again, it's these really sort of niche, minute differences that I'm really sort of seeing pop up here. Like, and I assume Guzzlord is going to be really similar. It's just about the fact that, we're just barely getting the move off. 475 versus 575 is the difference of sort of throwing this move or not. So regular Lapras, we sort of get this Ice Beam. It's not enough. Guzzlord survives on 13 health. The Shadow Lapras, we throw one, we throw the Ice Beam, it does well enough, gets the KO, and Guzzlord isn't able to take us out. I mean, this is really just the story that I'm seeing play out here. It's just the fact that that Shadow Lapras does that little bit more damage, and that little bit more damage is the exact amount that it needs to clinch up these wins. And so I think what might be a little bit more important, and I think that what comes up a lot more in these discussions about whether you should be running the regular or the Shadow, is looking at the breakpoints. So how much damage does Psywave do? Because this is where big differences could actually come out. So for example, up against a Abomasnow, going up to the Shadow Lapras, you get 1 extra damage every Psywave, which is 1 extra damage every half second, which can be massive for a 1-turn move. Like, it becomes absolutely huge. Annihilate, this is probably one of the big things as well. The regular, well, actually, Annihilate is also doing more damage to us, so it's sort of, the knife cuts both ways a little bit, but, you can sort of see that, we're doing 4 damage per Psywave with the regular, 5 damage per Psywave with the Shadow. And so I'm sure there's quite a few of these differences. Actually, you can see these are all of the matchups that Ice Beam Lapras is picking up an extra Psywave damage. Abomasnow, Annihilate, Shadow, Clodsire, Corviknight, Drifblim, Dunsparce, Feraligatr, Gastrodon, Grumpig, opposing Laprases, Shadow Marowak, Talonflame, and Wigglytuff. And so the Lapras pickup is kind of big. Because let's just look at this as an example. It's let's look at the Lapras. Let's sort of look at the Shadow versus the regular. You'd actually see that, it's actually still a tie. And that is because, again, the knife cuts both ways. So actually, if we sort of go into this matchup, our Psywaves do 3 damage. The only thing is, their Psywaves are also doing 3 damage because of them not necessarily, we hitting a break point against them, but I think they're hitting a bulk point against us, which is essentially means that our Lapras isn't bulky enough to reduce that damage from 3 to 2, so we're taking a little bit too much damage. So maybe that was a bad example. I mean, what was one of the other examples? We could look at Grumpig, I suppose. Let's look at the Grumpig matchup, where you can see that, again, the Shadow is doing 2 versus 1, but this is actually a really bad matchup. What is it? What's a better match? What's a better example? What's one? Okay, Dunsparce. Okay, Dunsparce could be a really good example. So again, we're getting the breakpoint. We're doing 1 extra Psywave damage per Psywave. And so let's take a look at the regular, where we can sort of see how the Dunsparce matchup goes. Not that Dunsparce is going to be massive in the new meta, I don't think, but you can see that we're doing 2 damage per Psywave. We get a Sparkling Aria, and Dunsparce is surviving on 55 HP, and we just barely don't get this Sparkling Aria that would be enough to KO. But what if we go over to the Shadow and we've got all of this Psywave damage, extra 1 damage, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, like we're getting, this is already like an extra 13 damage coming off of the Psywaves. We throw the Sparkling Aria, and then we've got them weak enough to the point that this Ice Beam actually is enough to bring it down, get these last Psywaves, again, doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, an extra 7 or 8 damage at the end here. Can be pretty major. And, you know, we're barely surviving. They're only 1 turn off the move. So, again, not a perfect example that's telling us a lot. It's just sort of telling you where this, I guess, could be useful, where these breakpoints can actually matter. And I really think that Lapras is one of the Pokemon where we're going to see that. And maybe a Corviknight. Actually, we looked at the Corviknight before, didn't we? What's a better example? I'm sure there's a better example here. Wigglytuff? But we win anyway. I'm really looking for one that we get a breakpoint and we flip the matchup because of that breakpoint. And maybe the answer is just there isn't one. Like, it's entirely possible that that's just not the case. Yeah, there's not really much example, to be honest with you. Actually, I have a theory. I have an explanation for this. Okay. Now, I've just gone through a few of these examples, and again, it's not really telling us a story that is sort of like, oh, this extra breakpoint could be absolutely amazing. And I think that there's a really logical reason here. And obviously it comes to the bulk points a little bit, in that if we look at the bulk points, look at all of these Pokemon. They're doing an extra damage, at least, maybe even more, for every single fast move they throw. I mean, we've got Annihilate here, I see Galarian Corsolet, Credilli, Carbink, Chargebug, Drapion, Sandslash, Sableye, Mandibuzz, Lapras, Gelatin, Steelix, Stunfisk, Talonflame. Like, it's also every Pokemon in the meta is just doing more damage to us because of our sort of 20% reduced defense. And let me explain. Lapras is a very bulky Pokemon. It's got a lot of bulk just sort of packed into it. And so when you go to a Shadow Lapras, you get a 20% decrease to its defense. You're losing a lot of stats. But you're also, the trade-off, getting a 20% boost to your attack. The problem is that Lapras doesn't have that much attack to boost. Like, it's got a smaller attack stat, bigger defense stat. So we're chopping off 20% of a big number, a lot of stats lost, and then we're adding 20% of a smaller number. So we're sort of adding less stats than we were removing. And sort of because of that, I think that Shadow Lapras actually becomes a little less useful to us because we're taking so much damage across the board. I mean, I think the Annihilate matchup is sort of one of the best examples of the fact that, like, you know, Annihilate feels like they're doing 14 damage every counter instead of 11. Like, that is just telling you something so severe. Like, sure, we're doing 1 extra damage per Psywave, right? And we can fit 2 Psywaves in the time that they do 1 counter. But that just means that they get an extra 3 damage for every extra 2 damage that we're getting. We are losing in this equation because we have given up way too much stat product. And so essentially, I guess the sort of second conclusion that I'm coming to here is that Shadow Lapras just isn't worth it. If you want a bulky Pokemon, run a bulky Pokemon. Like, that is what Lapras is for. You're already soaking up those moves. And so it sort of feels like you should probably just run the regular, and you should probably run Sparkling Aria Ice Beam. Now, one thing that has been brought up in chat is that I sort of forgot to look at the 2 shield and the 0 shield for the Skull Bash as well, to sort of give it a little bit of a fair shake. So we can sort of just quickly do that. I did I'll admit, I had a little bit of a peek at this earlier, and the truth is you're not getting that much value. So let's just look at the sort of, let's look at the regular. So Lapras in here, this third row, I guess, is the Skull Bash regular Lapras. And you can see we can pick up the Shadow Drapion matchup, we can pick up the Toxapex matchup, but we're losing a Abomasnow, losing Bombardier, Guzzlord, Jumpluff, Mandibuzz. We're losing more matchups as well as gaining more matchups. And, it sort of makes a little bit of sense because in the 0 shield, Ice Beam, you can guarantee getting these big wins against the Pokemon you can do coverage damage to. And in the 2 shield, we pick up the Lapras matchup if we have Skull Bash, but we lose Jumpluff, Mandibuzz, and Mandibuzz. And it sort of makes sense that this would be a little less, valuable just because Lapras does need to get all the way to sort of 3 charge attacks, which, as much as it's not the the slowest Pokemon. It's not the fastest either. So to be honest with you, regular Lapras is just losing a lot of these matchups anyway, because I just don't think Lapras is necessarily a two-shield Pokemon against a lot of these Pokemon that are a bit faster than it. You know, for example, if we sort of look at, actually, Feraligatr is kind of interesting that we're actually able to get the win in the two-shield matchup. Actually, I guess here's the thing. You're also doing a lot of Psywave damage in the two-shield. So if you're up against squishier Pokemon like Shadow Feraligatr, I guess you sort of can get the win. But with all of that said, I think we're sort of going to proceed with our regular analysis from here, looking at the regular Lapras with Psywave, Sparkling Aria, and Ice Beam, because in my opinion, that feels like the best Lapras you can run. Feel free to disagree with me in the comments, but I feel like that is going to be the way to go. I mean, is there anyone unconvinced about the, like in chat, about the regular versus Shadow or the Ice Beam versus Skull Bash? Like, does anyone have sort of a different opinion? Because in my head, this feels kind of clear cut to me. I know that people have been running the Shadow, but I'm not sold. Based on what I've seen here, feels like the regular is superior to the Shadow. Thoughts, opinions, agreed? I mean, if everyone agrees, that'd be handy as well. Because it's like, you know, at least it tells me that we're sort of on the right track, I suppose. Let me know either way, though. Like, it's kind of, I feel like I'm not going to be regretting not building a Shadow in the immediate future. Granted, you know, we could see, well, we're not going to see any Lapras at the Vancouver Regional this weekend because it's actually not eligible. Because it's that thing where new Pokemon with new moves can't be run until the Tuesday after they're released, and they were released on Tuesday this week. So they're not able to be used in the regionals this weekend, but they can be used in the regionals next weekend. So we're not going to find out for a little bit of time, unfortunately, how useful Shadow Lapras is going to be. But I don't know. I haven't been swayed on it. But, you know, that just means that we can sort of take a little bit of a look at some other mons. I think I opened a lot of tabs, but let's take a look what we've got. What have we got ahead of us? We can look at the Annihilate matchup. Is every second tab going to be Shadow? What are we looking at here? Oh, that's just regular versus Shadow. Maybe people are running Shadow because they're non-Shadow as Ice Shard and are hesitant to remove an exclusive move they already have on the non-Shadow. That is a reasonable point and something that I think does matter more than I've seen people sort of suggest. In that it is like, you don't really want to get rid of these exclusive. Like, do you really want to burn Elite TMs when you don't have to? And like, you know, the answer might be no. You know, but you know, it's something interesting at least. I think, at the very least. Which, I tend to be of the opinion that if I think something's interesting, then someone else probably does. I can't be the only one. Except when I'm talking about, like, Jonathan Jacobo and Scooby-Doo 2. That might be just a me thing. But anyway, let's take a look at a few pieces and sort of see what... we should look at IVs. Let's actually look at IVs. Battle... Oh, and that's one of those things that actually you could argue that we should have done the analysis with like attack weight. No. Actually, I take that immediately back. The stats question is big enough for me to sort of solve it. But what we should look at is, let's look at a regular Lapras. Let's look at a rank 1 Lapras. Maximize. And let's look at an attack weighted Lapras. Attack. And let's put the Open Great League back in. Okay. Okay, so now, well, now that we've locked in the regular Lapras with Sparkling Aria and Ice Beam, let's take a little look at the IVs. So first off, this first Lapras is the regular PvPoke default that we've been using. It's got IVs of 4, 10, 13. It's a rank 153. We've then got the rank 1 Lapras, the 0, 10, 14, which is a little bit tough to get if you don't already have it. But, if you've got that rank 1 Lapras ready to go, it could be pretty useful. Well, we'll find out. And then we have an attack weighted Lapras, just massive 13, 0, 0-0. Like, this guy is just trying to get break points without losing potentially as many bulk points as that Shadow Lapras was losing. So let's take a look at the one shield matchup up against the bulk meta. Again, we can just sort of scroll down to the bottom to get the cliff notes. The rank 1 Lapras picks up the Shadow Annihilate, picks up Gastrodon and Steelix with Thunderfang, but we are losing against Carbink, regular Lapras, and the Lapras Shadow. And then if we go the attack weight, we actually pick up Corviknight, we pick up Lapras instead of tying, and we pick up Lapras Shadow as well, and we get a tie with Gastrodon, and then we lose Claydol, Galarian Corsola, Feraligatr, and Quagsire. So there's a lot of sort of complex things going on here. I mean, first off, let's look at this Annihilate Shadow. Okay, it's 502. I mean, like, this is going to be one of the tightest things. Like, I have a feeling if I look at this matchup, we're going to survive on 1 HP because we're that little bit bulkier, which lets us get to the very final charge attack. Exactly right. We have 1 extra HP, which lets us get the Sparkling Aria off. So, you know, if that's what you want to roll with against the Shadow Annihilate, I think against the regular, we can sort of click the regular, you're going to win this one anyway, straight Sparkling Aria. Actually, it's kind of close here. When you're this rank 1 Lapras, it's still the exact same scenario where you are just getting down to that tiny little bit of HP that, you know, in one turn, they throw this Rage Fist and they get the KO. So it's a little bit better this time because, you know, we aren't taking the extra counter damage. So we're on 37 HP instead of 1 HP, which is why the sort of non-rank 1 Lapras can win this matchup as well. If we go back to the default and we hit battle, the regular Lapras wins this one as well because you have a little bit more HP. But the 1 HP difference is a little bit like, you know, I don't know if I'm trusting that one, to be honest with you. What else have we got? It also picks up Gastrodon. It's the exact same scenario. You are surviving on the tiniest little sliver and getting a move off. What about Steelix? Same story. It is the 1 HP. Apparently, if Lapras just has this little bit more HP, all of a sudden, it's able to survive these clinches of scenarios. I mean, but what are you losing? You lose against Carbink, which again seems like a little bit of a clincher. You're losing against the opposing Lapras. Let's take a look at that matchup, actually. Let's look at the rank 1 Lapras versus the regular Lapras. Maybe it's some breakpoint, bulk point shenanigans. We're both doing 2 Psywave to each other. So I guess it's just going to be that the rank 1 Sparkling Aria is 36 damage. They're both doing 36 damage. Why are we... Oh, it's literally just about winning charge attack priority. And obviously the rank 1, because it's bulkier, it has less attack, is going to be losing charge attack priority to the big one. So regardless of a shield scenario, it seems like, you know, that's why we're seeing that win go towards the sort of regular. So, you know, again, it's not awesome for you, but I suppose it depends. If we're going into a meta where everyone is going to be running Lapras and you see a lot of Laprases in the lead, potentially running the regular sort of non-rank 1 Lapras could be pretty big for you. I don't really consider any of these pickup wins as actual pickup wins. I think they're a little bit of a scam. However, it does sort of tell you the story where regular rank 1 Lapras will have more potential to survive on that 1 HP. I mean, if you run rank 1 Lapras, you are going to find yourself in matchups where you barely survive, and that's what lets you get to the Sparkling Aria and you win the game. It is going to happen. It's just not something that is really going to come up in the simulations to the extent that you will see in your actual games. So it might be one to sort of experiment with in the field a little bit. The second question, though, comes to this attack-weighted Lapras. So let's look at the Corviknight one. Again, it's really close. So I feel like if we look at the regular versus the attack weight, what we're going to find out is that the regular one, you know, we get 1 Sparkling Aria, 2, and we get an Ice Beam. It barely survives on 3 HP. Oh, we looked at this one before, and this sort of, I mean, we looked at the Shadow before, but, you know, this one, because they were attack-weighted, our Sparkling Arias are doing 54 damage, and the other Lapras was doing 51 damage. And so there's 3 HP difference that, you know, if this Sparkling Aria did that little bit more damage, all of a sudden, we do win that one. So makes a little bit of sense there. And then the other ones were the opposing Lapras, which, you know, again, we just win CMP. Like, we're winning charge attack priority if we have an even higher attack stat. So that checks out. And then we also pick up a win. Well, we pick up a draw against Gastrodon, but that one doesn't feel awesome to us. And, you know, I assume it's sort of a similar scenario to what we were looking at before. where if we see, it's a simultaneous knockout, fast move v fast move, and neither of us has the extra little bit of HP. So, the 2 shield does go Lapras' favor, but I think that's in all IV combinations anyway. And to be honest with you, across the board, it's not like there's not a lot of differences. Like these all seem pretty close regardless of your IVs. And so I'm kind of wondering here if the sort of answer in some sense is that do your Lapras IVs matter? And maybe the truth is they only matter in 2 scenarios. One, if you're in the Lapras mirror match and you want to get that charge attack priority, because, if we sort of look at this random Lapras, it's got 104 attack stat. And so people that I know a lot of people do know sort of where these numbers lie for a lot of Pokemon, sure, like it can sort of do something for you, but maybe you win charge attack priority. That's about all attack does. And then maybe you survive on 1 HP or 2 HP if you're not. So again, it kind of come down to a little bit to, do you want to win charge attack priority or do you want to have a higher chance of surviving clutch matchups? And the answer to that question is going to be a little bit dependent on you. It'll be a little bit dependent on your playstyle, and it will be a little bit dependent on what the meta looks like. And we don't quite know that yet. So something to keep in mind that is really all the IVs come down to, at least until someone sort of shows off something else. But yeah, the breakpoints just don't seem to matter too much. You can see the rank 1, there's no breakpoint difference. You do pick up an extra Psywave damage into Corviknight, Gastrodon, and Grumpig. Bulk point wise, the rank 1 does pick up it sort of reduces the damage that it is taking from Shadow Annihilate, Bombardier, Guzzlord, and Superior. But the attack weighted is taking extra damage from everywhere. Annihilate, Charge Up, Critically, Crystal. Maybe this tells you shouldn't run attack weighted. Which kind of just goes back to a similar story that I was telling about the Shadows, where it's like you're just sacrificing what Lapras is good at, and that is being bulky. So I'd probably recommend building a bulky Lapras, but consider putting a little bit of attack stat in there for charge attack priority. Feels fair enough to me, but welcome in, gamers. Welcome in, Thomas. Welcome in, Jay Frey. Hope you're doing well. We're just continuing on the Matchup Mastery series. I will take a sippy. But because I just clicked the button. I know that I talked about this earlier. Well, not earlier, but in an earlier stream, I was kind of like, we sort of litigated the issue about 3 minutes of ads versus not 3 minutes of ads. To be honest, we haven't. This is the first time I clicked the 1 minute button, so we're not going to do 3 minutes of ads per hour in this stream at the very least. But it sort of is what it is on that front. But I also don't really understand how it works in terms of, I know that anyone that has Twitch Turbo, they won't get ads, but I know that sometimes just regular, like if you don't have Twitch Turbo, sometimes it doesn't give you ads anyway. I don't know if it's just because they don't have ads to give you, if Twitch isn't getting enough, ad interests anyway. But I don't know. Not so sure in the grand scheme of things, but looks like we're going to be coming back in 4, 3, 2, 1. Yoda Ridge, thanks for the follow. Welcome in. And yo, Ashton Ash, good to see you, legend. Shiny Lapras. We should have been checking the Shiny Lapras. Obviously, we know that Shiny Lapras has a damage boost as well. I think PvPoke is broken because there's no way to turn on Shinies. So maybe that's some feedback to send to our Overlord Kakuna Matata. Welcome in, game. I hope you're well. One thing you said before about whether you want Ice Beam or Skull Bash is also relevant in the IV discussion. If you're seeing Lapras everywhere, that's where you want CMP. Yeah, and I guess, actually, that's a great point. Great point from Max the Beard in chat as well, in that if you can win Lapras versus Lapras just with Sparkling Aria Ice Beam, if you have a little bit of extra attack, like if you're winning Charge Attack priority, do we really need Skull Bash at all? Like, are we just sort of solving it with our IVs instead of solving it with our moveset, while still having the ability to have that Ice Beam coverage for Pokemon like Jumpluff, like Corviknight? I guess to me, it really just extra pushes the fact that Skull Bash probably isn't necessary, especially if you aren't running that rank 1. Thanks for your help today. Eventually got the hang of it. I'm glad, Mikey. I hope it went all right in the end. I think that, for those that don't know, Mikey Morgs has just started his brand new streaming career. So shout out Mikey Morgs. Give him a follow because we do need a little bit of Australian love, a few more Australian content creators out there. So hit him a follow for the next time that he does end up streaming. But it is it's a learning curve. I remember my first stream went for about 20 minutes and then I stopped because it was like a disaster. But we get there in the end. To be honest, Lapras with Skullbash is definitely the way. Why? What's the logic from your end? I just don't. Like I haven't seen the source. It didn't show me it sort of succeeding anywhere that I didn't expect, to be honest with you. Welcome in, Patsy, the party parrots. I guess I don't have Twitch. What's the extension called that makes the Twitch better Twitch emotes, better Twitch Plus? I don't remember what it's called, but I don't have it installed. But Lapras is kind of looking good, man. It's yeah. Yo, Gengar Life, welcome in. It's good into Azu. I mean, single battle. It isn't like regular Lapras is decent into Azu. Like if we just go the regular guy, we still win with 16 turns, and we're just throwing. Oh, okay, it's throwing Ice Beam there. Well, let's say if we just go Sparkling Aria. You literally win the Azu matchup just throwing straight Sparkling Aria. In the 0s, the 1s, and the 2s. Like, why are we running Skullbash? I don't follow. I don't see the reason, I guess. But yeah, it's Lapras won't be eligible in Vancouver, which is unfortunate. It feels like, we have to wait so long to sort of find out how Lapras is going to perform and sort of how this new meta looks. Not that I don't think it's fun to have halfway metas. It's just usually we don't have halfway metas on like the 8th of the month. That's kind of crazy. Like it's going to be the 9th of March and they're still going to be battling in a halfway meta. It's kind of crazy. Skybash is definitely the way. Probably a grass indoor dragon user. True. I have run a bit of regular Lapras, but 1-to-1 matchups aren't the whole picture. The Azu vs Lap matchups takes longer than 50 seconds. Okay, that's a fair comment. The fact that it's almost twice the switch timer. I don't know. Like, I understand. Conceptually, I get that Skullbash is a better move to have in the Azumarill matchup than not having Skullbash, right? Senore, thanks for the follow. Welcome in. Like, I conceptually get that. And the same with, like, Dugong or, like, any of that sort of thing. Or, opposing Lapras. It just doesn't seem like, one, that you need it, and two, it puts you at so much more of a risk if your move gets shielded. And that's what we saw in, what matchup was it that we were looking at earlier? I can't remember the exact matchup we were looking at, but it's just like, if it gets shielded, all of a sudden you can lose the matchup. It's like, oh, heck. That's kind of a disaster. I could see Weezing having played in Vancouver. Very good into Ape Azu. Yeah, I think that Weezing's going to be good. I also think that Sableye without Dazzling Gleam is going to be good. I think that where you can sort of get this dark type coverage in is going to be kind of handy. Even though you don't have the Dazzling Gleam to throw it like, I don't know, Azu, you can still run Return, I guess. I don't know. Someone could run a Cope Lapras with old moves. Here's the thing. They could run Cope Lapras before. Like, it's been available this entire time. No one's done it. Honestly, I found the Skullbash is much better for all the waters. And so often it sets you at a better position for backline matchups. +1 defense boost, you can take the 2x crunchies from Shadow Drape and not get farmed down before they need another move. Yeah, I look. Maybe I should walk back what I said a little bit, in that there's no reason you should run Skullbash. Well, I didn't say there was no reason. I just made it sound like I was speaking a bit harsher before than I was. But maybe there's room for it. I don't know. I guess, what I'm really coming back to multiple times is I want to see it in action. Like, PvPoke is one thing, the real world is another. And I think one thing that is... Here's one thing, actually, in that I think that Skullbash is going to perform better in the Open Great League Go Battle League than it does in Play Pokemon. I think that Skullbash, once you're in Play Pokemon, your in a worse position. One, because there's Pokemon like Jumpluff that are going to, go, oh, I don't have to care about this Pokemon anymore. But also, your opponent is more likely to shield your big Skull Bash than they are in Go Battle League. Because in Go Battle League, well, I mean, I guess there's a lot of people that are running Skull Bash in Go Battle League, so maybe people are starting to shield. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm still at rank 6 or whatever, so maybe I don't have the greatest understanding of how GBL is going at the moment, but it does feel more useful in GBL than Open Grey League, to me at least. I think the utility for Skull Bash is if you have a high RV lap, is greater than Ice Beam. Yeah, I agree with that statement. If you have a rank 1 Lapras, maybe you run Skull Bash. We need a showdown equivalent of Pokemon Go PvP for this sort of thing. I mean, we kind of do. Like, PvPoke does have one in the training simulator. Like, it exists. It's little. I mean, it's a live action game, so it's a little clunky. 90, can we have some Lapras spawns, please? Mine will lose against Corsola, Gastrometi, Steelix. It's tough that Lapras is such a good Pokemon. It just continues the Niantic trend at the moment of these great PvPoke Pokemon just aren't accessible. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. My lap is very high IVs. Okay, that makes sense. Get it around. Thanks for your help earlier. No worries. And seriously, like, message anytime. I'm super keen to help out. But yeah, I appreciate it anyway. But yeah, I guess let's keep the train going and let's take a little bit of a look at some specific matchups. So let's open this back up. Okay, we are going to look at just straight Sparking Aria a little bit. It's a little crazy, but we're going to just go through some examples. How do I... Oh, I mean, we just showed a beats a zoom rule. I think I'm pretty it's already in here. Okay. All right. I'm just wondering, all that's going through my head, because I'm clearly thinking, was like, oh, do I address the Skull Bash thing? Or do I just sort of leave it as is? I'm not sure. Going to bed. Nice seeing you live for a bit. See you in the next one. No worries, Ash. Welcome. Good to see you again is what I meant to say. But have a good one. Looking forward to seeing you crush the next tournament you enter, as you seem to always manage, I believe. But have a good night, legend. Thanks for stopping in. Appreciate seeing your name pop up. Make the Metamons more accessible or draw 25. I to get the massive head. Oh, not a bad meme. Not a bad meme at all. Someone tweeted out. Hydration reminder, sir. That's actually a good point. Okay. What I'm going to do, I will... Oh, but we just clicked the add button. Okay. I'm going to go refill my empty cup, even though it's green screened. I'm going to get some hydration because my throat is starting to feel it. And then we'll come back. We'll blitz through all of the matchups that you win at just straight Sparkling Aria. And then we'll just keep going. Like, I won't pause this again. And we'll then look at what Ice Beam actually does for us. I hope that sounds good, everyone. But yeah, I will be right back with, hydration. Thanks for the patience. There we go. Unmuted. Okay, I'll wait for the chat. 20 seconds. Okay, we did okay on the time, to say the least. We did okay. I'll wait this 15 seconds because I don't want to interact with the chat when chat isn't here. That'd be a little silly in my mind. Oh, we shouldn't have. Hang on. Lapras. 2, 1. Welcome to Get Gamers. Thanks everyone for being patient. Really do appreciate it. But we're back as was. Yeah, maybe get 2. We could have. Is that a threat? No. I'm just trying to live. Interesting hydration reminder, given that this is a Lapras conversation. Yeah, I'm just trying to get Sparkling Aria, man. In the main series, there is an ability called Hydration that Lapras can have. What does Hydration do? But Triple B TCG, welcome in. It is Friday night, isn't it? Has your tournament happened or is it happening? And I've got, unfortunately, I've got this stream today, so I've got to do some Lapras analysis because Pokemon Go's just had this big move update where everything is sort of changing, and so there is plenty new stuff to see. I mean, Lapras is going to be one of the best Pokemon in the meta, and it has 2 brand new moves that are kind of going crazy. No idea what you're talking about. I'm in a Steam stream. Hey, fair enough. You see, it's one of those things here where it's like because this is a Go stream, right? Most people in this chat are Go folk. So it's almost like mentioning a TCG tournament. It's not like there's concerns of like self-promo or anything, because it's like, oh, chances are no one cares, like except me. And he was the user of any status conditions at the end of the turn if it's raining. It seems very specific, but also could be kind of good. Look, I'm sure there's some Wolfie Glick could make it work with some shenanigans at the very least. But let's do it. Okay, I just hate when people do that in my streams, so try to show the same respect. And I appreciate it because I think it is the correct way to go. But 20's live in like 30. Got it. But yeah, personally, I mean, feel free to mention it because it's something that I'd be interested in doing one time. Just doesn't work out time wise this time around because we've got to talk Lapras. But okay, let's do some analysis. So let's make sure our stream's back up. Cool, let's go. One place that I want to start. Well, maybe I shouldn't say that because we're so deep into this analysis already. We've already looked at so much. Something that I want to look at, sort of following some discussion we were just having on stream, is looking at how Lapras performs with just Sparkling Aria. So this essentially tells you, regardless of moveset, you will win these matchups, and regardless of any need to bait or, land the big move, you can win by just throwing the cheapest move over and over and over. And one of the most interesting in my mind is the fact that in the one shield, you can beat a Azumarill straight Sparkling Aria and still have a pretty decent chunk of health remaining. You've still got, actually, you take this Ice Beam, but you still have 37 health remaining. And if we sort of look at the other shields, we win all even shields, just straight Sparkling Aria, which is kind of crazy. But it's not just Azumarill. We also beat Annihilate, straight Sparkling Aria. We looked at this one earlier, that with your, the Psywave damage, there's some breakpoint, some bulk point shenanigans, but, it is one turn away, so it's not a clean matchup by any means, but we're taking them out just before they get this Rage Fist that would KO us. And if we take them out one Psywave early, then, happy days. Granted, these are the sorts of shenanigans where one turn lag will be really detrimental. It could absolutely ruin your day if you go into the lead Lapras versus Annihilate and somehow you lose. And it's like, what do you mean I lose? I mean, maybe if we go for a high bulk Annihilate, do we survive all of a sudden? No, we still win even against a bulky Annihilate. Our Psywaves are still doing 4 damage. And so, is there... there is a way that it can only do 3 damage, though, if we have this specific stat spread going on. Okay, so there is actually IV spreads that we do 1 less Psywave damage, and all of a sudden, Annihilate does get that Rage Fist off and does get the KO. Were we changing ours or were we changing theirs? It looks like we were changing theirs. The rank 4 Annihilate. So the super high rank Ape, which, to be honest with you, a lot of people are running attack-weighted Annihilates that they've built for the last season. But if you were running Annihilate in this season, then maybe attack super high bulk is actually the way to go so that you get this Lapras matchup, which is kind of crazy. Other examples we've got a Bomber Snow that you can just Sparkling Aria all the way through. We do lose the 0 shield, but we get the 2 shield as well. Not that a Bomber Snow is going to be that big, to be honest with you. We already looked at Azumarill. Carbink is one that, again, a lot of people are talking about, and you can just straight Sparkling Aria, but again, is 1 turn of difference can flip it. They have the power gem that is enough to KO you. Again, 1 turn lag really could throw out your day. And also, you have to throw move perfect. You need to be throwing your move on good timing. You need to be throwing on odd numbers of Psywave. Because if you throw after 2 Psywaves, throw the move, you're giving the opponent the opportunity to get a full free rock throw through. And then you don't get this last Psywave and they just barely actually get the power gem against you. So you need to be playing incredibly well, which, to be honest with you, it's tough. When you're playing 1 turn moves, it can actually be pretty hard to get that exact right count. So it's definitely going to be something that high skilled trainers are going to succeed at. And if you're a bit newer to the game, if you aren't very good at counting moves, first off, if you're a Lapras, if you're up against a 2-turn move, you'll want to be throwing on one Psywave or 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, etc. But, if not, then maybe just consider Carbink to not be a matchup you want to be in, or you can you actually lose the other shield scenarios, the other even shields, so maybe it's not a great thing. Clodsire is one that I've actually just set it at Stone Edge, because that's a little bit worse for Lapras, but, just to prove that you still do win, straight Sparkling Aria all the way down. Same thing against Galarian Corsola all the way down. It's 3 turns away from sort of getting the KO, because you have 1 HP. Okay, so this is IV dependent. So if we were a little bit more attack weighted, let's say we had a 10 IV in attack, Galarian Corsola is going to beat us because we don't have that 1 HP. So you do need to be a little bit bulky to be able to beat the Galarian Corsola, but, we'll see how much Galarian Corsola is actually running around now that it's been nerfed. We've got Shadow Drapion that we are able to just Sparkling Aria all the way down. Again, it's a close one, and Shadow Drapion is such a major safe swap Pokemon that people love to get a little bit of energy advantage on, that this could be pretty dire because they probably swap their Drapion in. And so you need to be quick. You need to see that Drapion come in, and your game plan has to be Lapras comes in. Granted, it's a bit of an odd one. I don't think that Lapras is your safe swap Drapion answer. You should probably have something else on your team of 3 that can handle the Drapion safe swap. But if you want to go a little bit risky, or you're going for a strategy where you're sort of A strong into Drapion or something, I don't know, maybe there's room to use Lapras as your swap answer, but you are sort of getting dangerous if this crunch gets that 30% chance of debuffing your defense. All of a sudden you could be in a bit of a worse spot. Drifblim, another one that you can just straight Sparkling Aria. You don't even need the Ice Beam, which is kind of crazy. Diggersby, all the way down, 3 turns difference, so it's getting a bit close, but we do get all even shields. For Alligator, it's getting a little bit close, 4 turns away, and it's another Pokemon that loves to be a bit of a safe swap demon. And if we look at Shadow for Alligator, you can see that it is a 5 turns difference, so slightly better for you, I guess. Mandibuzz, also one that is kind of crazy, that you can actually Sparkling Aria this all the way down. It's kind of telling you how crazy a move Sparkling Aria is, but look at this. Tap on the screen, 1 turn difference. It's a little bit dire. And again, you have to time your moves well by throwing. Well, Snarl is a 3-turn move, so you have to throw on 2, 5, 7, 8, sorry, not 7. It can get a little bit hecky, but it also, same thing applies to the Air Slash Mandibuzz instead of Snarl, although it's actually a little bit better for you. 6 turns of wiggle room, I guess. Then we've got the Shadow Marowak, which you'd sort of expect. Sparkling Aria does almost 70% of its health when it lands, and it's a relatively quick move, so you're in a pretty good spot there. And versus Wigglytuff, where they're going to be charming you down. This is where Lapras's bulk really comes in handy, although... Tap the sign. This is ridiculous. I almost wonder if Lapras is just a PvPoke sim hero. I know it isn't. I know it does so well in the actual game, but this is kind of crazy how often it has been a 1-turn scenario. Granted, caveat, big asterisk. This is all just throwing straight Sparkling Aria. This is the most consistent a Lapras can be. If you're running consistent Lapras, if you're throwing a good timing, you'll probably get these, but at the same time, Wigglytuff is... Okay, no, Wigglytuff is getting well KO'd. We're doing an 87 damage move to a 30 HP Wiggly. So it's not like it's a high bulk Wigglytuff might survive. I mean, if it's high bulk, it needs an extra 58 health. So maybe we don't have to be too worried about the high bulk Wigglytuff surviving the Lapras shenanigans. But these are all what you win with Sparkling Aria. And, we sort of looked at the big wins earlier. But let's take a look at what we actually need Ice Beam for to get those KOs. The way to beat Calming is to convince them Rock Slide is the way. I always wonder if content creators do that sort of thing. If they, I know I've mentioned this before, if they put out a video showing this team and then instantly run the team that counters it. I'm always a little bit curious. But let's run. Let's add in Lapras with Sparkling Aria just versus this guy. So what should we be picking up? No difference. Are you kidding? Ice Beam picks up no... What about like Jump Bluff and stuff? Oh, Jump Bluff isn't on this list. H-I-J. Where's Jump Bluff? Let's go play Pokemon Championship Series meta. Okay, here we go. Here's what we wanted to see. Goodra, Jump Bluff, Quagsire. So let's open Goodra. Let's open Jump Bluff. And let's open the Quag. We saw the Quag before though. Loading. Okay, we already saw before that Quagsire was one of these examples where, it's just got a little bit too much HP, and by sort of throwing the Ice Beam, we do just barely do enough damage. But again, this is really low health, and it's sort of, you're relying on getting the bait with a Sparkling Aria, or rather, you're relying on landing the Ice Beam. So it's a little bit dicey. Jump Bluff is one of the other obvious ones where we need the Ice Beam for that coverage. If we go straight Sparkling Aria, we just aren't going to do enough damage. Whereas if we bring Ice Beam into the mix, as soon as we land one, it is doing almost 80% of Jump Bluff's health. So it can obviously get a little bit crazy. In the 0 and the 2 shields, it's actually, we win the 2 shield, but I assume this is because we're getting perfect baits in. If we get a little less lucky, like say, if we set it to no baiting, right? Baiting off, I think we probably lose this. Oh no, we still win? Straight Ice Beam. Oh, that's crazy. Okay, it's close, but we actually win straight Ice Beam. That's actually kind of handy knowledge to know. And then Goodra is another one that is resisting Sparkling Aria. And so if we add Ice Beam into the mix, we're sort of barely winning by getting an Ice Beam land here. This is not one of those examples where we can afford to not bait. Because if we throw straight Ice Beam, we are not, it's close, but we are not getting this last Ice Beam through, unfortunately. Actually, it's at the point where... Why is it? Oh yeah, we do get the Ice Beam at the end. So we just aren't able to click it. So we just need that one extra turn. So not that you're going to see a lot of Goodra, but this is kind of the only 3 matchups that you kind of need Ice Beam for. Obviously, it's sort of like if you're up against the Mandibuzz and shields are down, Ice Beam's going to really help you. If you're up against a Superior, Ice Beam's going to help you. Venusaur, like any of these other Pokemon where Ice Beam is super effective, it is obviously going to help you. It's just that you potentially don't necessarily need it per se. It's not a need scenario. But if we look at something like Superior, let's start getting into the matchups that we lose. Because even with Ice Beam, and we should have put a Sparkling Aria back on here. Even with Ice Beam, we are going to lose the matchup against Superior because, again, we may be a little bit speedy, but we're not super quick. Like any Pokemon that gets to its moves in 8 turns, like Drapion, or 10 turns, like Feraligatr or Superior to Aerial Ace. Or, what's happening here is it's getting to Aerial Ace in 10 turns, and then 12 turns later it gets to a Frenzy Plant. It takes us 12 to get to our first Sparkling Aria, and then it would take 11 to get to another one, which, we get to. But it's sort of like we just don't have the ability to outpace the Superior, and so we do fall behind, and Superior is able to take us out. But in a universe where we're able to land the Ice Beam, that could be really consequential. If you have the tiniest little bit of energy advantage on your Lapras, this could all of a sudden become a pretty good matchup. But this isn't the only one that Lapras loses, obviously. We need to open up a few more though. Let's Matrix battle this thing up. Let's put Lapras back in. Let's add in play Pokemon Championship Series meta. Let's take a look at some of the losses. So let's look at... Do we look at Bombardier? I guess. We already did before though, didn't we? We kind of did. Let's look at Dusknoir, because that's an interesting one. Grumpig, like let's look at these ones that we haven't looked at in this video yet. Malamar is a key one. Morpeko is a super key one. Primeape. I don't think Red to Steel matters. Sableye. Spiritomb, I guess. And we can look at Sunfisk. Did I miss the deep dive? No, we're still going on, Berserk. Welcome in. We're still moving. Try Quag without the bait. Okay, let's put Quag without the bait on. I mean, we know the answer, right? We know that it's going to... Like, if we just put Lapras, Quagsire, we go baiting off. Like, we know the answer to this question. Lapras wins if it goes straight Stone Edge. Because it's close both ways. So it sort of checks out. So let's look at these matchups that Lapras loses. So let's scroll to the top on all of these different pages. Okay. Let's look at these puppies. I will say, Berserk, we will be editing this stream down and posting it to the PvP Steve YouTube channel tomorrow. So if you aren't subscribed over there, please go ahead and feel free. Because, yeah, I mean, you know, obviously you can't ask questions there live, but, you know, it'll be shortened down time-wise. But, yeah, I'm planning to upload that, like, within 12 hours. Like, I'll sort of be... my plan is to sort of download this tonight and then go to bed, wake up in the morning, edit it together and straight upload, and then get started with the rest of the stuff I've got to do tomorrow. So it'll be up there pretty quick. But, you know, to answer sort of all the questions and whatnot. But let's look at some of these losses. So, and thanks, Anne. One other new Pokemon that has been added to the meta is Dusknoir. It has just been given Dynamic Punch, which really does help us out. Well, doesn't help us out. It helps Dusknoir users out when Lapras is becoming so big, because with access to Dynamic Punch, if it lands one, it does a ton of damage. And even though we're getting really close to KOing it, it just does a little bit too much. But I kind of wonder, I feel like if we have if it's a bit more of an attack-weighted Dusknoir, Lapras can actually win. So this one is IV dependent, depending on how much HP the Dusknoir has. That's in the one shield though. Looks like we actually win the other shield scenarios as well, if it is this attack-weighted Dusknoir. If it's the regular Schmegular though, we actually lose the 0 shields as well, but the 2 shield, we can still win, presumably straight Sparkling Aria, just because they are not able to get to this Dynamic Punch. Tiniest little bit of energy though, and Dusknoir will be able to flip that 2 shield matchup. So something to be cautious of. Another loss is Grumpig, another new addition with Dynamic Punch, Shadow Ball. Wait, did it get Dynamic Punch and Psywave? I think they were the 2 additions. It already had Shadow Ball. But in the one shield scenario, they're just going straight Dynamic Punch, does a lot of damage, and are able to Psywave us down before we can, to be honest, we're not even getting that close to getting the win up against Grumpig, and we are losing so many shield scenarios, it's not funny. Like, it's Grumpig, one of the main reasons that Grumpig is good going into this new meta is because it is such a hard counter to Lapras. If it didn't counter Lapras, it would be meaningless. If no one used Lapras, I don't think you run Grumpig. That's kind of my take a little bit. I know it's got such good coverage, but I'm just not incredibly impressed by Grumpig, to be honest with you. But then we've got the Jellicent matchup, which again, if you've got a ghost type user, it's not going to be super awesome for us. They do finish off with a Surf, which, you know, always gets a little bit wacky, but, you know, they're surviving on 45 HP. We're 5 turns away from getting the sort of big damage we need, which would be the Sparkling Aria plus some Psywave damage in the one shield. And then we lose the 0s as well. But we do pick up the 2s. And this really just comes down to the fact that we are faster than Jellicent. We can get to our 4th charge attack before they get to their 4th charge attack. I mean, they're getting close to KOing us with fast attacks, really. 2 more hexes or 3 more hexes. But that's, I mean, probably 2 more with some IV dependence, but still. Malamar is another big one, and it's got access to Superpower. It has also just been buffed in that Foul Play is now the same amount of energy as Superpower, so that pacing is going to be really tough. Predicting the bait move is going to be really tough. It is not a matchup you love to face anymore, and, you know, we're getting they sort of are almost getting to 2 Superpowers and then throwing enough to KO. So they could actually just back-to-back here, even if we wanted to go to, if we went to the 2 shield scenario, it just lets them back-to-back Superpower. They don't even need to. They just do more Psywave damage. But, you know, they're assuming that like this simulation assumes that they know you're going to use 2 shields, right? So theoretically, you would actually throw your superpowers a bit closer to the end, but Malamar still wins. So anything with fighting damage is not going to be a good time. And actually, Primeape is another good example of that, where, yeah, we're just losing pretty hard. I think even if they go straight Rage Fist, we presumably lose this one. Oh, actually, Lapras wins. Oh, that's interesting. Lapras wins if they go straight Rage Fist. They need to land the close combat to actually get the W, which is kind of unexpected, to be honest with you. I really wouldn't have thought that was the case. I mean, we lose all matchups if it's got access to that close combat. Straight Rage Fist. Does it actually win any of them? Well, Lapras wins all matchups if it's straight Rage Fist. What if it's going straight close combat? It's just going like hard fighting move. Okay, we lose 1 shield. We lose 0 shields, but the 2 shield, it can't store enough energy before it debuffs itself. So maybe there's actually real chance here. Because, like, yeah, and once we get to the 2 shield scenario, as, you know, Berserk is saying in chat, like, Psywave, we don't even need to throw charge attacks anymore. We're just doing Psywave all the way down. We only need to burn 1 shield if it's got just close combat. But, yeah, this is kind of... Oh, wait, no, it could be throwing a move here, but it just knows that it shouldn't. Kind of interesting, kind of whack, but it does sort of tell you that maybe you've got a chance if you can actually predict the baits, I guess. If you can shield their close combat, Lapras is actually in a pretty good spot against Primeape, to be honest with you, but you know, it obviously gets a little bit dicey. Morpeko is, again, when we're getting into the electric damage, it gets a little bit scary. Obviously here they're throwing the Psychic Fangs. They're not even doing any electric damage. And it's just because Aura Wheel is such a crazy move and Psywave is resisted. It is only doing 1 damage per Psywave. Morpeko wins this one pretty handily. Like, there isn't much to say about it, to be honest with you. Stunfisk is a little different. It is still an electric type with Thundershock Discharge. I would argue that Discharge did get debuffed. It did get nerfed in this season. It just sort of got reworked to be a little bit cheaper for a little less damage. But you can see that straight Discharge, Lapras is losing this one in all even scenarios. Granted, the 2 shield is getting kind of close, but yeah, it's not going to be, just 1 turn different. Maybe we can get the 1 turn lag. No. But it also involves landing an Ice Beam to get it so close. So it's not as locked in as you might hope it would be, because, yeah, it's an electric type. If you have energy, though, this matchup all of a sudden becomes a little bit decent for you. Spiritomb is another one that has access to the Rock Tomb damage. It's the brand new buffed move that is, you know, going to be nerfing us every time it gets thrown. It brings our attack down by 1 stage, and just 2 Rock Tombs is enough to seal the deal for us. We do still win the 1 shield, though. I guess we are pacing a little bit quicker, so the fact that we can get 2 Sparkling Arias in before they get their damage in kind of works out for us. But yeah, the Rock Tomb definitely hurting us because we don't even have much health in this matchup. We have 6 HP remaining. So, you know, we lose the big matchups though, so it is sort of is what it is. Niantic needs to add the move Dive to the game and make it worth a deep dive. It'll happen one day, right? They'll all enter the game eventually. How about Hex Dusk? It's kind of similar, to be honest with you. It just doesn't do much. it's actually worse for Lapras because Hex Dusk Noir gets to its dynamic punches even quicker. Also interesting for if Primeape is Rage Fist Ice Punch. Oh, we can look. Primeape, Rage Fist, Ice Punch. 1 shield, 1 shield. As a bit of bonus request in chat, a Primeape with Rage Fist and Ice Punch, we've just gone back a little bit. Lapras still wins. That when it doesn't have it's because it's throwing straight Rage Fist. Like Rage Fist does 40 damage, Ice Punch does 19. It's resisted, so it's the same scenario as if you don't have the fighting move. But we also have Sableye, one of the brand new additions with Dazzling Gleam and a much quicker foul play. Really helps you in a lot of matchups. I'm not sure if it helps you here, but it does straight foul play. Lapras does lose 4 turns away, and actually we're losing all even shields. We're even losing 2 shields to 1. Like we shield first foul play, we shield the second foul play, okay, and then they can land the Dazzling Gleam. So if they don't land Dazzling Gleam though, if it's straight foul play, I think that one does go in our favor. But you know, that's if we're going down shields. And we're either calling the bait and shielding the Dazzling Gleam, or they just never throw Dazzling Gleam. So I wouldn't call it a a good matchup for Lapras. But I guess it's just worth noting that I guess technically Lapras has win cons, but it's not where you want to be. Yo, sorry, I'm definitely reading it wrong. Sorry, it's so small on my screen. Arcito. Close. But thanks for the follow. I appreciate it. That's actually kind of the bulk of the content I wanted to go to. What else haven't we talked about with Lapras? We talked about the moveset. We talked about Shadow versus non-Shadow. We talked about IVs. We talked about some of the basic matchups as well. Sparkling Aria, it's a little less complicated than some other Pokemon, simply because of the fact that Sparkling Aria is such a carrying move. Because Sparkling Aria alone does so many matchups, there's less scenarios where it actually needs to bait. Which is kind of interesting. Wildmo for funsies. Great idea. Great idea. Brilliant suggestion. Thank you, Anne. Okay. Oh, we should actually look at Blastoise as well. We'll look at Blastoise. Oh, hang on. I'm going to bait and switch it. I've got an idea. I have an idea. First, let's set this up. Let's have a Wailmer and let's have a Blastoise as well. Okay. Here we go. Boop. Now, one other brand new addition to the game that I think is going to be a really interesting matchup to look at is the brand new water type that has been given rollout. And that is, of course, Wailmer. Wailmer now has rollout, gamers. It is huge news. I mean, woo! It's officially time, and Lapras loses. Wailmer takes down one of the biggest threats of the meta. I mean, this is huge. I mean, Wailmer's crazy. It wins all even shield scenarios. I mean, it even wins the 1-0. I mean, Wailmer is just OP. So, what's that? Oh, you wanted to know about Blastoise. All right, we can look at Blastoise, but isn't this cool? Okay, anyway, let's look at Blastoise because I do think it is interesting. It's actually PvPoke has defaulted to Hydro Cannon Skull Bash. Let's run Ice. Let's take a look at both actually. Let's look at Skull Bash. Actually, so we're throwing one Hydro, land the Skull Bash, and Lapras barely loses. So this is some sort of bait scenarios, I suppose, but we're losing all shields. If we turn baiting off, where it's probably just going to go straight Skull Bash. Actually, I think you probably need to go for a Hydro anyway. Oh no, it gets 2 Skull Bashes and it loses anyway. You can't throw 3 Skull Bashes before Lapras is able to beat you, but in the 0s and the 1s, Blastoise can actually go straight Skull Bash and get the win. If we happen to be running Skull Bash, do we sort of pull it back from the brink? Yeah. If we have Skull Bash, we can sort of take it back. In the 0s, it's a little worse for us, but let's put Ice Beam back on and let's take a look at the Ice Beam Blastoise, because this is the sort of, I guess, I feel like, is it the most common? I'm not sure. I think both Blastoise could have play, but they're just throwing straight Hydro Cannon back, forth, and Lapras is able to win because Psywave is doing 2 damage per turn, Rollout is doing 8 damage per turn, which sounds like Rollout is doing more damage overall, but 2 things. 1, Lapras has way more health, and 2, Blastoise has way less health. It's the same thing. We just have more health. And so when we're sort of even though Blastoise is doing sort of more damage to us, we survive on 12 HP, which isn't great. I mean, this could be their breakpoint bulk points shenanigans. Rollout can actually do 7 damage. There's a chance. There's certain IV combinations that Rollout is only going to do 7, but, it's not very guaranteed by the seams of it. It sort of just is what it is. It's a little bit middling of the road, but there are scenarios where Lapras has an even better time. So, Blastoise, not a perfect matchup for Lapras, but to be honest with you, for a Pokemon that resists potentially all of your moves and is also doing super effective fast move damage to you back, it's probably not that bad. And to be honest, Rollout did also just get a nerf going to this season, even though it was given to Blastoise, but, I think if Rollout wasn't nerfed, this is probably an easy W for Blastoise. But because it's been nerfed, this is a little bit more interesting. And I always wonder if that might be might have been one of the reasons why it is how it is. But I mean, with that said, I think that sort of brings us to the end of our Lapras deep dive. At the end of the day, I guess my recommendations are run Sparkling Aria Ice Beam with Psywave, overrunning Skull Bash. I do think that there are some scenarios where Skull Bash could be useful, especially if you are running a high rank Lapras. Then, and we're sort of talking with Mikey Morgs a little bit earlier, I don't know if you saw the chat messages, but I really do think that a high rank Lapras could get a little bit more benefit. But I also think that you might want to run a Lapras that is a little bit further, like just a little bit off of that sort of rank 1, like maybe like a rank 50 or a rank 100, just so you have that ability to get that charge attack priority, because I think that is going to be more important for you than having Skull Bash in the Lapras mirror matches, even though it sort of does get you a little bit of an advantage in the water type matches like Azumarill and such. I also think that the regular Lapras is a superior over the Shadow Lapras, because the regular Lapras gets to hold onto so much more of its stat product than the Shadow does. Granted, Shadow Lapras did have quite a few clutch matchups where it sort of could just barely eke out the win, but I think at the end of the day, it's really going to be a scenario where it's sort of up to your preference, and of course, you can sort of follow this analysis by doing some of your own. Jump into PvPoke, do some simulations, use your exact IVs to see what your particular Pokemon can do, see if you are hitting any bulk points or break points along the way, and, you know, of course, sort of see how Lapras does as we sort of go into next weekend when it will be first eligible in the Championship Series for Play Pokemon. But until then, you know, this is about all we know about Lapras. Did I miss anything interesting with bulk points and break points? So here's the thing. There's a lot of stuff about bulk points, break points, like a lot show up. But it sort of comes down to whenever we gain a break point, we're losing too much bulk point. Like we're taking more damage than we're saving, pretty much because of the stat 20%. We're just losing more than we gain when we're a bulky Pokemon already. And so that's about Lapras in the Open Grey League. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, especially that subscribe one. And thank you to all of my patrons down in the description as well. I don't have the graphic in front of me. But yeah, thanks everyone for jumping in. And I will look forward to the next one. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you would like to see me sort of do this sort of video for next. And also let me know if there's some Lapras matchups that I sort of missed. Like, let me know why you think that Shadow Lapras is so good. Let me know why Skull Bash Lapras is so good. Like, please, like, feel free to correct me, correct everyone. Like, everyone sort of scroll down to the comments, because there are going to be people that disagree with me. I know that there are people that are running Shadow Lapras out there. I know that there are people running Skull Bash Lapras out there, but me, as one person, I've sort of taken a look, and the conclusion that I'm coming to is regular Lapras, Sparkling Aria, Ice Beam. And with that said, that's about all I can do. So yeah, again, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, especially that subscribe one, if this is content that you want to see in a YouTube thingo, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. YouTube video done! We have a YouTube video. Let's go! We'll do it. I'll edit it tomorrow. But all that's left is Ultra League. Yeah, there's no chance I'm looking at Ultra League. Well, we're so back. 115 is good. I have the Ice Beam on it. Yeah, I think Ice Beam is the way to go. What do you mean by 115? Oh, rank 115. Yes, I do believe so. I think that 115 is good because you are going to win charge attack priority against all the Laprases that are bulkier than you, and that is going to be what determines whether you win that one shield scenario in the Lapras mirror match. Not anything else, not break points, not bulk points, just whether you win charge attack priority. And thanks, Ian. Where's my Lapras? I do have one. I've got one. I built one. I used it on stream the other day, right? I was running Lapras Wailmer backline. I'm pretty sure it's got a bow tie and everything. It's the Dapper Lapras. Dapperus the Lapras. Dapperless the Lapras? Oh, maybe that's how you do it. Or Dappers the Lappers. I don't know. I'll load up. I thought, okay. Ready for Community Day? I don't think so. Lapras. Look at this guy. He's just hanging. He's got the Psywave, Ice Beam, Sparkling Aria. I don't like that they're oriented that way. I prefer that Sparkling Aria would have been on the top, but when I unlocked a second move, it unlocked it with Sparkling Aria. So not much I can do on that front. Like, I wasn't going to waste even more TMs. Do you know how crazy that would have been? Yeah, but Bo Lapras came to play. Yeah, we went positive the other day as well. I mean, you know, you can watch it on the VOD channel, I suppose. I know that originally I was sort of playing with the concept of like, we might do this analysis and then maybe, you know, we might jump on for some battles. But to be honest with you, I think that my throat's not going to handle it, unfortunately. So I think we'll just raid into Jimmer. Love that the button is green screen. Yeah. But now you can throw people off with move order. That's true, which is awful. But yeah, thanks everyone for coming out. I do appreciate everyone sort of coming and sticking out. I appreciate it. Just give us a button to switch charge moves. It might be a little bit too intense. I don't know if it's I mean, look, it would be convenient for a lot of us. Most people wouldn't care. But, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, thanks everyone for coming out. I really do appreciate it. Tomorrow, hopefully, I'll actually be streaming we'll be competing in the official Pokemon Unite Championship Series. We are having a bit of a hard time getting a team of 5 Oceanic Battlers together because the tournament starts at the same time as Skeleturge Community Day. So it's been a bit tough. It's entirely possible that we aren't able to get a team together. I'm not sure, but, you know, we'll certainly try at the very least, and we'll see how we go. But I'll also be planning to do some Go streaming around that as well. Potentially a Go stream into a Unite stream. We'll sort of all find out. But yeah, anyway, thanks everyone for coming out. I'll see you in the next one. And, you know, come back and hit the follow button if you haven't already. Like, you know, Lurk is free to click it after I click the raid now button because I won't see it. You can hide it away. That's all good. But yeah, go show Jimmy some love and see you in the next one. Laters. Bye. Bye.